considering it.
Alright, peace, y'all. Peace. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about the late Marvin Gaye. Alright, now, Marvin Gaye is a legend, was a legend. Alright, a lot of people were raised on Marvin Gaye's music. He contributed to the R&B culture. You even got some people that copy his style still today. But there was some interesting things in his story that I want to point out. And I want to discuss it if I may, but as I always do these videos, I'm going to be very respectful to the family and friends of Marvin Gaye. And we're going to discuss some things without being too raunchy. Now, Marvin Gaye was born April 2nd, 1939 in Washington, D.C. His father, who was a minister, went by the name Marvin Gaye Sr. All right, and his mother, Alberta Gaye, was a domestic worker. All right, now Marvin Gaye started singing in the church at the age of 4, and his father actually taught him how to play the piano, self-taught. All right, so he was very talented since a child and destined. Some people say he was destined for the music business. All right, now Marvin's father was actually the minister of a church which was called the House of God, that mainly focused on the Pentecostal side, all right? But behind closed doors, all right, Marvin suffered from severe beatings and also watching his father wear women clothes.
There's too much of the devil in you.
His father was a strange man by any measure. He was a man who wore female clothing. He's a man that Marvin was ashamed of.
Marvin, seeing his dad, who on one hand was his charismatic preacher and on the other hand was a cross-dresser, was a source of great confusion for him. And when Marvin looked for paternal love in his childhood, what he received was not only scorn, but intolerance and violence.
My father was...
Now, during this time, you know, this will cause a lot of confusion to Marvin Gaye, all right? And then, you know, during his teen years, he would perform, you know, kind of like to get away from that type of stuff. He would perform with local doo-wop groups, all right? But his father would often kick him out the house and, you know, beat him and stuff like that. So he kind of like strayed away from music for a while and then joined the Air Force. All right, now, when he joined the Air Force, he would later be discharged for faking a mental illness. All right, now, when he returned back to D.C., all right, he formed a group called the Marquis and worked with artists like Bo Diddley, who actually tried to get him signed to Chess Records. All right, but they got denied, and you know they kept going and writing songs and stuff like that. But after that, they moved to Chicago and recorded a few songs and also worked alongside Chuck Berry before signing to Motown. Now, when Marvin signed to Motown, he actually, you know, dismembered the whole group and went on to focus with his solo career. Now, during his time at Motown, he started writing songs and, you know, slowly became the Prince of Motown, all right, after writing numerous hits. Now, he decided he wanted to get into doing duets, right? And this is where he met Tammi Terrell. Now, they would record a bunch of hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, You're All I Need to Get By, and a whole lot of other songs, right? Now, some thought that they were actually in a relationship, but they was just, you know, good friends at the time, I guess, you know what I'm saying? But his wife didn't really like the fact that he was too close to Tammi, you know what I'm saying? Now, in October of 1967, Tammi Terrell collapsed in Marvin's arms on stage, all right? And she died from a brain tumor at the age of 24. Now, in my opinion, this would be considered, you know, a sacrifice because, you know, it's like I'll be telling y'all about a lot of these rappers that get cool with people and then next thing you know, they meet their demise, right? But Marvin Gaye admitted he felt like it was his fault that she died. Okay, so he felt like the blood was on his hands, for the reason that she died. Now, if somebody just has a tumor or a brain tumor, why would you feel that, you responsible for that unless you had something to do with it? You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not necessarily saying that, but you know how this stuff go. When you get involved in the music business, in order for you to make all of that money and be successful, you got to give up something, okay? Now, Marvin's career began to skyrocket shortly after, okay? Shortly after Tammi Terrell died, his career went to the next level. He became a household name instantly. Everybody knew who Marvin Gaye was, okay? He actually played the part in the civil rights movement with songs like What's Going On, you know what I'm saying, bringing black and white people together, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of people knew who he was. Now, he began to go on a spiritual journey, like I said, and wrote the album What's Going On that led him to actually be number one. Now, after going through a tough divorce, he then turned to drugs, which made him become a little paranoid, right? Now, the story goes is that when he was performing during this time, he would have a preacher in one room and a drug dealer in another room. So he was kind of like battling his demons in a sense. You get what I'm saying? But, it was crazy to actually see him go through this process. And then, shortly after, he recorded the last album on Motown, In This Lifetime, where you see this artwork here. It's a whole bunch of Freemasonic stuff on the album cover. And then, you got the angel on one side and then the devil on the other side. You know what I'm saying? So he understood what was actually going on. And if you listen to a lot of songs on this album, he's basically talking about it. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about doing deals and all of that stuff. He basically explaining it. You know what I'm saying? In a nutshell. Now, this is where I found it to be a little strange, because a few years ago, Quincy Jones had mentioned in an interview that Marvin Gaye had a secret relationship with Marlon Brando. All right. Now, Marvin Gaye's family denied this and said it wasn't true, but I didn't understand where that came from. Was there some sort of jealousy between Marvin Gaye and Quincy Jones? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But for him to actually put that out there publicly and then retract the statement, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, you speaking on Marvin Gaye after he passed away, it's kind of crazy to me. Now, after he went completely broke and had to give up everything to the IRS and to his wife, all right, he hid away in Hawaii where he met a boxing promoter. Now, this boxing promoter, right, it was like he renegotiated his contract in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because, if y'all didn't know, he attempted to take his own life in 1969, I think, after Tammi Terrell passed away. Like, he went through some tragic events. But this boxing promoter, right, inspired him to write the song Sexual Healing. They was having a conversation in the studio one day, and he was like, you need a restart, and you should, get some sexual healing. And that's what led him to write that song. You know what I'm saying? And ironically, it put him right back at number one. You know what I'm saying? Now, they said that Marvin Gaye, during his time when he went to Hawaii, he was actually sober. He kind of like stepped away from a lot of that stuff. But for him to just get a restart and, get back in the game, then once he got back in the game, he went right back to the nonsense.
His voice is shot. He can't hit any notes. And he's unsteady on stage. It's one of the worst shows I've ever seen by anybody that good.
The last time we saw him at, I think it was Radio City, I think the people around him was just, I don't know. But we lost him at that point.
In August of 1983, Marvin gave his final performance in Los Angeles. Addicted and exhausted, he retreated to the home he had bought for his parents.
When he came home, he wanted peace. And everybody was pulling at him, left and right.
When Marvin returned, the hangers-on returned too. Though people close to him tried to shoo these people away, Marvin eventually sought them out, or at least accepted their overtures.
And they would come night and day. And I think that's what upset Father, was the traffic. They had no respect for Marvin's father or his mother. They would come at 2 o'clock in the morning. The girls would be in the garden screaming, "Marvin, let me in." There was a lot of tension in the house, and it was building within Father because he seemed to be fighting with Mother more. And then Marvin was building up too because he was getting sicker and sicker.
He's addicted out of his mind. The drugs are making him absolutely kooky. He's paranoid. He believes everybody's out to get him.
Just things that came out of his mouth that you knew were not Marvin. It was like the devil almost inside of him.
All right, now, just the day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gaye was shot twice by his father. All right, now, some say his father was jealous of his success, you know, which kind of caused him to actually do it. Then, you know, you heard stories of, you know, that him and his mom were arguing and Marvin stepped in and was like, hey, you know, stop talking to my mom like that. But it's kind of crazy because the father used the same gun that Marvin brought him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so he actually, you know, took his own son's life with the gun that Marvin had brought him. You know what I'm saying? It seems a little spiritual to me. I don't want to seem too deep off the end, but it seemed a little kind of crazy and spiritual to me, man. But I'm gonna play this interview, and it's with Marvin Gaye and his father, and you could kind of tell there was a little distance between them.
I thought to myself, well, that's a horrible April Fool's joke. That's not even funny. What is he doing? That's not funny. So I switched the station. You want to switch the station? Another guy. Yeah, so singer Marvin Gaye, brother. And so I stopped the car. I went into the gas. I stopped the car. I went to a phone booth, and I called Anna. And she answered the phone. She said, hello. And I said, hello. And she said, oh, baby, it's you. Because she recognized my voice. She said, yeah, I know why you called me, and it's true. She said, you know, his father shot him.
And you started to cry at that point.
Absolutely. I could not believe that.
Did you know his father at all?
I never knew his father at all, period. To this day, I don't think I've ever met his father.
Yes.
I always wished after what happened, his father killed him, or what it was, that I had known about his relationship with his father. Because it was turmoilic and traumatic for all of Marvin's life. I didn't find that out till he was dead. I always felt like if I had known that, maybe I could have talked to him and said, hey man, so-and-so and something, you know. But I didn't know anything about his father basically until after that.
Was you deeply, profoundly disappointed when you didn't make that team? The Detroit Lions?
I was disappointed to tears.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you why you know why you didn't make it? One thing. Remember you asked us to pray for you? That's one time I didn't pray for you. I won't tell you why, because I didn't want them to break you up.
Well.
And the only thing I could see and visualize, my boy on the stretcher, the first time somebody hits you, carrying you out. Remember you told me when you trained with them somewhat, they found they hit. I said, well, they naturally be easy on you. I said, well, wait till those opponents come in there. You remember me saying that?
No, I can take it. You know, I did good. I went through a month at Eastern Michigan, and they had a pretty tough bunch of guys up there, and we hit every day. You know.
They really did. They hit you. You didn't feel they lighten up on you?
Well, I don't know. I didn't get hurt. You know, I had just a normal bumps. But you can get hurt, you know, but I feel like football is a strange sport. I can play football. If I can get in shape, which maybe I'm probably too old now, but if I were not too old to play, I have the mentality to play football. I know I do, because, you know, whatever deficiencies you may have as an athlete on a football field, if you use your brains along with your ability, you can generally negate You know, like if a guy's stronger than you, if you're a little quicker, then you can negate his strength somewhat, and it goes like that. So, you know, I have the mentality to really play the game. That's why I never really got hurt, you know. But I could have played.
I'll never forget the day when you left home. You got in that station wagon with Mr. Harvest Fickle, and you bumped your knee on the door, looking up to tell me goodbye. And I went to you goodbye, and that's when you left home and things began to move there. And you went through a period of, I guess, little hardships, which is a part of a person's bring them up and a part of their, you know, building them up. And finally, when you first put out your first record, seemed to me, I was surprised along the way. I said, here's a dream come true. I had a lot of dreams about you, and I saw it, didn't I? And then after a year, he's doing the very thing which he told me he would do with that form of training. I'll never forget that picture, you getting in that car. You would be surprised the feeling that the parents has when they see their children leaving, going out in the world and not knowing. And then those days, you know, juvenile delinquency was prevalent all over the nation. And we understand we can get this feeling, oh, I hope he don't go anywhere and get into trouble. So we had to live with that. And by you not getting into trouble, that was a great burden off your mother and our minds and our hearts. And I'm going to give to you now before these cameras and for these people. I think you're one for myself. As long as I know you have a humble mind, and as long as you know there's a guard upstairs, you can call on him and respect the people. I think you a really wonderful person. I'm going to give that to you as my son. And I'm proud of you, really am.
Marvin Gaye is one of the most notorious murders in music history. Here's what we know about his final moments and his final words. On April 1st, 1984, a retired minister, Marvin Gaye Sr., shot his son Marvin Gaye twice with a .38 caliber pistol. His son slumped down against the far wall and lay there bleeding out. The gun had been a present from his son for Christmas that year. Marvin Gaye, the musical legend known as the Prince of Motown, died a day before his 45th birthday. His father shot him in what some saw as an inevitable outcome of their troubled relationship. Gaye had gone so far as adding an E to the end of his name to distance himself from the man who had abused him his whole life. Gaye was born on April 2nd, 1939 in Washington, D.C., and suffered under the strict corporal punishment liberally doled out by his father. Even before his son was born, Marvin Gaye Sr. already seemed to have a problem with him. Alberta Cooper Gaye told David Ritz in his book, Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye, "My husband never wanted Marvin, and he never liked him." Marvin Gaye Sr. even went so far as telling Alberta he didn't believe Marvin was his son. Gaye's father was a minister in the Hebrew Pentecostal Church, but that didn't stop him from physically abusing his children or becoming violent when he overconsumed alcohol. Marvin Gaye found solace in music at church and believed he could win his father's love through singing.
In this life, I love music, and music is my love, you know. It's
now, with that being said, y'all, like, even the old school artists, man, they went through some traumatic times, you know what I'm saying? So you always got to remember, man, no matter what part or position you play in this business, man, you know, it's never happiness in there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these artists, they may look happy on the outside, but they're never happy. You know what I mean? Because you got to give up your soul in order to be famous and rich. And when you realize the devil don't give you everything, yeah, you lose it. You know what I'm saying? You lose your mind. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video, man. I'm gonna get to some more content for y'all, and stay safe out there, y'all. Peace.